Welcome back to Silent Hill Shattered Memories. In the last episode, I went through an epic tale of perseverance to get across the ice using an ancient version of the Dolphin emulator so that I could use the recorded movements to throw off enemies, which it turns out I didn't need to do because I was supposed to die anyway. Although I did have to swim, which might have required those recorded movements anyway, I don't know. Either way, that chapter of my life has come to a close, and now I can use the newer version of the Dolphin emulator. And we are in front of the lighthouse, where Cheryl supposedly is.
It's a clinic?
Clinic? Counseling and Family Therapy. M. Kaufman, MD. Michael Kaufman was the name of the director of Alchemilla Hospital. That prick. This obsidian-eyed statue in the corner with the jewel on its forehead immediately caught my eye. Oh, you open up. Adam. Adam? That's me. I also didn't mean to get that just yet, but yeah, that was a picture of me. I think it said never forget.
This is going nowhere. I'm spelling it out, but you're not listening. Your troubled school days? How you're conflicted about marriage? Your denial of death? The unfounded guilt? Abnormal sexuality? 18 years of denial. A whole universe of fantasy in that thick skull of yours. A skull teeming with agents of repression. Blind children clutching photos in the dark. Pale freaks goggle-eyed from watching home movies on loop. The term is complicated grief. But it's simple, isn't it? A young girl. Her parents don't get along. She blames herself, as all children do. Then daddy dies. What's a girl to do? Deny that daddy died. Deny who daddy was. What 7-year-old actually knows who their parents are anyway? So she obsesses and obsesses over this fantasy dad propping up her make-believe with scraps of a happy life that never was, scraps of a father who never existed. Wake up! Your dad wasn't a hero. Wasn't your knight in shining armor. He was a human being. You never knew him. And you never will. The dad walking around in your head isn't even a ghost. He never existed. A Frankenstein's monster, a child's fantasy. But you're alive. Your mother is alive. She's not the monster you make her out to be. You need to live your life. Cheryl.
You've been with me for so long.
I always will be.
be careful?
Sure,
Harry,
we've said enough. Let's just... Sweetie, don't film this. You know this has nothing to do with you, right? Even though Mom and Dad don't love each other anymore, we both love you. And we always will. Now, come on.
Let's end with some thoughts on Silent Hill Shattered Memories. I don't think I'm going to read this thing off to the side because it's going really, really slowly and looks like it's probably going to continue for the entire credits, but you can read that if you'd like. I hate that ending. Oh, I thought it was going to do so much more. Oh no. I'm so disappointed in this game. Okay. It seems to have ended with basically no subtlety at all. Nothing deeper, just they started going with this explanation that I didn't like, and I thought maybe they would twist it around into something interesting, but then they just followed all the way through. The idea being, oh, you're actually Cheryl. Cheryl's the one receiving therapy, not Harry. So that was kind of an interesting reveal, but then they went with the idea that your dad is just all in your head, and then, yeah, they are. The end. That's it? There's something more going on that the ending doesn't really seem to touch on, too, which is that it seems to both be saying that the dad isn't real, but also that the dad is real. It's saying that the dad isn't real because of what the therapist said, and also because of how the therapist reacted to when Harry entered the room. Harry entered the room, and the therapist didn't react at all. They obviously would have seen them, heard them, but they didn't see them. It was only Cheryl that saw them, which suggests that, yeah, Harry is fake. But at the same time, all the stuff that happened in the town, I mean, the fact that we played as Harry, the fact that Sybil Bennett said, yeah, you're Harry, but you're not Harry, like, Harry died, I don't understand, suggests that they were real to some degree. Like, I feel like maybe it's because of what I said previously about Silent Hill being a town that seems to prey on people's grief and sadness and sort of manifests it and eats it and mixes it all up. It feels like Harry was manifested from Cheryl's feelings so that they were sort of real. But then at the therapist's office, they're not? They're not real anymore? The therapist doesn't notice them? They're invisible? What? The ending to me doesn't even seem internally consistent, and regardless of whether it's consistent or not, I really don't like it. It's so uninteresting. I feel so apathetic about this game that I almost don't even want to delve into the details, because I just kind of want to move on with my life. But no, let's actually delve into it. This game is very, very different. It's radically different from the original 4 Silent Hills, which kind of established the Silent Hill formula, I would say. And, I mean, I definitely want to give Climax Studios props for trying something new. The way that you look at the world with the camera is completely different. The way that you control your character is completely different. The motion controls is a whole new way of interactivity with the environment that isn't anything like the original Silent Hill. There's no combat, only chase sequences. The puzzles are very, very light. They were much more difficult and involved. The original Silent Hills, like, it's radically different. It's so different. It doesn't have that Silent Hill other world, right? The other world is basically the nightmare world where everything's frozen, which to me isn't anywhere near as interesting as the other world where everything's all rusted and horrendously messed up, and the architecture changes a bit, not entirely. It still vaguely resembles the space you were in before, but you know, the map usually gets overdrawn and places crossed off with how things have changed when you enter the other world, the worse world. It tries lots of new stuff, but the thing is, I don't think any of it really works. I can't really say whether I prefer the over-the-shoulders camera and typical third-person controls to be better or worse than the original Silent Hills. I mean, the original Silent Hills with their camera angles and how they control can be pretty frustrating, and it doesn't feel very good. But the major plus to it is that it can make for some very moody scenes depending on how the camera is used. Sometimes it frames a scene in a way that just makes it a lot creepier or more powerful. Sometimes it makes it so you can't see enemies in a way that's just frustrating and not really creepy. So there's pluses and minuses. I can't really say whether I prefer this way or not. Taking out combat was a surprising change, and I think I would probably be okay with that if the stuff that replaced it was better. So the stuff that replaced the combat, I guess most directly would be the chase sequences. That's the only cases where you encounter enemies. But the chase sequences are bad, and not just because my whole control scheme is terrible and I had to avoid getting attacked by any of the enemies. That certainly made it extra frustrating, but even that completely aside. The chase sequences are just bad because there's basically just one enemy with many, many clones. It subtly changes how that one enemy looks later in the game, but it still looks basically the same. So it's just this one kind of boring enemy going through very samey environments where pretty much your only interactivity for the most part is just run. You can hide, but that sucks. It's better just to run, really. More interesting just to run. And you just follow the weird gamey blue ice prompts telling you places you can go, and it's just not good. It's not interesting at all. And if instead of the combat, they also had more involved adventure elements, looking at things in the environment, doesn't necessarily have to be puzzles, but just looking at the environment, interacting with it, gathering information, learning more about the world. If that was a really strong aspect of it, then I could see that replacing combat. But the adventure elements are surprisingly sparse. This game feels very pared down in every way. Combat-wise, it's pretty much removed. The adventure elements are... they're barely there. I mean, there are some puzzles. There are some things that you need to interact with in the environment to solve. Like, finding a key or making a phone number out of shadows from an art piece. That was pretty cool. But they're few and far between, and for the most part, I just ran through environments because there was almost nothing there. I mean, I looked for phone numbers to dial just for fun, but as far as looking at the environment to understand more about the place, what is this environment that I'm in? What happened here? As far as that goes, the environments were just pretty dull, and there wasn't much there. Also, the environments are just overall way, way less interesting than the original Silent Hills. The original Silent Hills have a lot of just bizarre geometry, especially when you enter the other world. Architecture and geometry and just spaces that are way too big or way too just they don't make sense as places in really interesting and unsettling ways. There's just a lot of interesting spaces. Things that I just look at in the environment, I'm like, whoa, that's not right. Why is that there? Why is this like that? Oh no. And that just happens all the time. But in this game, the environments are just dull and boring for the most part. There was a couple of scenes where you're falling down, that you're just falling and falling and falling, and you got the flashlight and you can look around. It's just like this endless fall. And you hit the ground and you're in this huge, empty, dark space. I think that was really the only case of abstract, strange environments and spaces. That was a pretty cool space, but that was just one time in the entire game. This game tries a lot of new stuff, but I don't think it really succeeds at much of any of it. There's definitely some more stuff going on story-wise than what they just ended with at the very end there, because the ending doesn't touch on the story about what happened with the teacher abusing the student who was maybe Dahlia, maybe Cheryl, maybe someone else. It didn't touch on the knife, Exhibit A. I'm sure all that stuff is related to why Harry died. So there's something more going on than just that really boring end, but I don't really care to delve into it. I don't think this game is good enough for it to be worth it, to be honest. I know this sounds mean, but it's true. And I can't believe in the end that therapist never got their comeuppance or whatever. I didn't get to stab him and kill him. Does the game honestly think that's how therapists should be? That that's okay? That's the impression that I get. Doesn't seem to have at any point acted like, yeah, this therapist, yelling at their patient and then throwing a glass against the wall. Not to mention a million other things. They're kind of horrible. Alright, well, I think I'll end this here. This was a really disappointing Silent Hill. But thankfully, it's not that long. I hope you enjoyed, or at least got something out of this playthrough. I hope you enjoyed it more than I did. I didn't hate it playing it, but I do hate how it ended. Anyway, I will see you on the next Silent Hill. Thanks for watching.